Hey y'all, my name's TehGM. You may know me as the guy who does Death Battle fan OSTs, or as a Kingdom Hearts fanatic, or maybe you just know me as Ben. But today, I'm focusing on Death Battle itself, specifically Season 6. As the new year approaches, so does a new season, promising many requested characters and some that can fuck right off. Still, it's important to look back and reflect on the amazing season we got this year. While not as spectacle-filled as Season 5, this season certainly filled its quota worth of spectacular episodes, and it's my job today to rank them all. That being said, there's more to a Death Battle episode than meets the eye, such as the music track, the thumbnail, the writing, the character animation, the fight animation, and so on and so forth. So hey, I'm TehGM, and this is my ranking of Death Battle Season 6. Let's be honest, it's inevitable this one would be last. So, now I get to go into a Marvel vs. DC matchup. Yay! It's not that most of them are bad, because they aren't. It's just that I'm tired of seeing them all the damn time. And there's still more to come. I know they're doing Ant-Man vs. Atom because how could they not? But I'm still a little burnt out on all of them. Especially after last year's season finale, which felt like a natural conclusion of this sort of matchup. Well, anyway, it's Captain Marvel vs. Shazam. A mediocre episode with a mediocre score topped off with a short as hell animation. The only really memorable part of this episode was motherfucking Enterprises, and even then there are funnier episodes this season for sure. Just an overall meh episode with an obvious result anyone could have seen coming. While I'm here, I should note that I don't think a single episode of Season 6 is bad per se, just that the worst one, aka this, is mediocre in comparison to the rest of the series and Death Battle as a whole. So, 6.5 out of 10. Step your game up, Ben. Say what you will about this episode, but they called Widowmaker a smurf, and that's a win in my books. So, this is a battle that happened this year. It sure did. Honestly, this episode was one of the more boring ones of the year, and I feel like that had to do with a certain French assassin not having a lot of material to work with. Now, the Black Widow rundown doesn't really overstay its welcome, but the Widowmaker one kinda does. It's not even Death Battle's fault, it's just that Overwatch is still very much in its infancy as a franchise. And even then, Widowmaker is one of the more popular Overwatch characters, and it still felt like they were dragging their feet at points. Even then, there are some other things I have gripes with. For example, the fight is a bit longer than it really needed to be. They could have cut some of the Ferris wheel shenanigans and it would have flowed a lot better. I'm not saying to get rid of it entirely, but it would help to remove some of the less exciting stuff. But I mean, it's still good. It's got some solid jokes, and oh my god, that death is on the more brutal spectrum of the season, that's for sure. Also, just like any good Death Battle episode, there are some great quotes.
What makes you think you could sneak up on me? I'm a goddamn Avenger.
Honestly, the writing for this entire season is great, with a few exceptions here and there that I'll get to later. Overall, a nice episode that doesn't really stand out amongst the crowd. 7 out of 10.
I can't survive anything.
Nice theory. Let's test it. До свидания.
Do you think Aquaman orders fish to get into his mouth? I like to think he does. So, this one. It certainly happened. I'm unsure of the idea of this being the premiere, and if I could, I would have made the Megaman Battle Royale the premiere, but I'll take what I can get. Not to say that this episode is bad or anything, because it isn't. It is a decent result, good animation, a killer track, good voice acting, etc., what you'd expect from Death Battle. So why is this so low? Well, it's really not the episode's fault. Well, some parts of it are. For example, it's pretty obvious that they were still ironing out the kinks of the Whiz and Boomstick animations at the time, and a lot of their movements feel artificial. It's probably due to the animators not being used to working with rigs opposed to sprites, but it gets better, so who am I going to blame? Oh, that's right, I've been complaining this entire time. Non-stop. Whoops. The battle, for as neat as it is, actually feels a little short in comparison to the rest of the season. Like, they could have done some more stuff with the rock golems, for instance, but really all I'm doing here is nitpicking now. Expect that a lot more of the remaining few episodes before we reach number 12. Overall, a really good episode and a fun way to kick off the season. 7 out of 10. Good job.
No! You control me? Impossible! How about it, boys? Dinner's on the king tonight.
So, Wario got killed by his own fart. Does that mean he technically won? Just asking for science reasons. Wario vs. Dedede was certainly an episode that happened this year. I'm gonna be honest here, most of the Smash matchups never really interested me before, and they are gonna start doing so now. Regardless, the episode is quality, but it doesn't really change my ambivalence towards the subject matter. If I'm being honest, I don't have a lot to say about this episode. It was funny, it had fun moments, and I don't really like the track. I won't get into it here, but it's a very nerdy reason why I don't like it, but to simplify, Yates, buddy, where the fuck is 1? Regardless, a fun episode, but there's still better to come. I mean, that much is obvious. We're only at number 13. 8 out of 10. You know, of all the ways to start this battle, they chose the saddest, and I respect them for that. I'm not gonna lie, the only reason that this one is as high as it is because I love Mob. I love his character, I love his series, I love what they did with him, I love it all. Tatsumaki is, well, not that. I hate her, like, a lot. So the outcome is a little bittersweet for me. That being said, let's actually review the episode. The rundowns are, for the most part, nice and concise. There's really no slowdown at all, and that's a good thing. It's also pretty funny on Tatsumaki's side, but on Mob's the humor just kind of falls flat. The fight though, the fight carries this episode. It's, simply put, gorgeous. And the only real problem I have with it are the normal and 100% mod sprites they used. Otherwise, it's actually perfect. I don't have a problem with it at all, but if it's perfect, Why don't I like it? Well, because I don't like Tatsumaki. I hate her, in fact. I told you this. I'm biased. Sue me. 8 out of 10, bitch.
You should pay more attention. Nobody beats me.
So, Aang killed Ed, but he didn't kill the Fire Lord. Does that mean that canonically Aang used Ed as a worse person than a literal homicidal maniac? Oh. Yes, no. Yes, no. Yes? So, Aang vs. Edward Elric was an episode that happened this year. I can't wait until that stops being a qualifier. Alright, I don't have a lot of things to say about this one. I don't have too many complaints, and the only really issues I have are with the Aang sprites and the overall pace of the animation. But then again, I can't really sing its praises either. It felt really run-of-the-mill. Like Ben just seen an episode of Fill Out the Year and looked at potential Aang matchups and said, Edward Elric sounds appropriate. And then he realizes that Ed isn't even close to Avatar State Aang. And he regrets everything, but it's already on his calendar, so he just says, fuck it. And then this episode happened. You know, as a fan of both shows, it kind of sucks that the episode is as run-of-the-mill as it is. There's just nothing that really makes me go back to it. Even during the Season 6 binge I did in preparation for this video, the whole time I was thinking, man, I could be reading salty Ben 10 comments right now. I mean, not really, but you get my point. The episode is boring, and Ben's nasally whiz does not help. I know it's not his fault that he got sick, but it still drags the episode on. Elements of alchemy is a bit on the boring side too, with nothing of it being truly noteworthy. Overall, a meh episode with a hugely predictable outcome, some pacing issues, and a so-so track. 7 out of 10.
This ends now.
At least I'm taller than you.
You left me no choice.
I wonder if we get praised or chastised for this pick. Yeah, hot take. Dragon Sword vs. Mechagodzilla is one of the most overhyped death battles we've ever gotten. Maybe it's something to do with my general apathy towards kaiju, or maybe it's the writing, or maybe it's the animation, or maybe it's all of the above. Yeah, unfortunately, I felt very fatigued coming off the Mecha G rundown. The Dragon Sword one actually felt very nice and concise, but the Mechagodzilla one just dragged on and on. By the end of it, I was just praying for something to happen, and then they cut to commercial! But luckily, the fight picks up the slack of the rundown in a tremendous way. There are lots of fun moments, namely the first use of Absolute Zero, the Dragon's Lord fighting mode transformation, and this one shot that I kinda wanna frame on my wall. If only I didn't have a headache the first time I watched it from the Mecha G rundown. 7.5 out of 10. Well, you can't touch my salty crown. I hear you through your phone, monitor, whatever, screaming at me for putting this any higher than the number 16 spot. But what if I told you that this episode is actually good? Because it is, it's very good. The animation is stellar, for starters. Have you seen those hand-drawn bits? That forearms transformation? That's good shit right there. The way big fight? Glorious. That Alien X finger flick? Godlike. But still, there are some downsides. Like how the fight ends. I'm not saying I disagree with the outcome, because I don't, but it was weirdly brutal for both characters. I just can't picture Green Lantern cutting off anybody's hand, really. Parallax GL does not count, and it certainly doesn't fit the tone of Ben 10 like the rest of the fight does. And let's be real, the main problem people have with this episode wasn't the outcome, it's how the outcome was presented. The post-fight analysis was poorly worded, to say the least. They really could have used a better argument for why GL won. But hey, at least Ben was in a death battle. A lot of American cartoon characters aren't really represented within the online discourse, and it's nice to see that change, even if it was technically for the worse. Well, what can you do about it now? Except maybe listen to Emerald Heroes for the 5th time in a row! Yeah, the battle track for this one really saves it from the depths of mediocrity in my eyes. If the OST was even half as good as it is currently, this battle wouldn't have moved a damn inch on this ranking. So a good animation, a fantastic OST, and a mediocre script kept this episode tightly locked at the number 9 spot. 7.5 out of 10. Liam, see me after class.
You're not the first doofus to try to take this! It's hero time!
Ew, I stepped in loser. Oh, it hurts to laugh. Don't ask.
You know, I don't think a single episode of Death Battle is a more quotable kill line than this one. So, Ghost Rider vs. Labo. Honestly, the more I think about this fight, the more the cracks show. I'm halfway to believing Lobo actually takes it, but I'm still happy with the result DB came up with. Well, might as well talk about the episode itself. It's really good. The pacing of both rundowns is great, and while it's clear they go through more info in the Lobo section, it still felt even in terms of length. That being said, the fight is a little on the short side, which is a shame. It also doesn't have a lot of combos, instead relying on the powers to carry the fight. Not to say that combos are always necessary, because they aren't, but they don't hurt. As a result, the fight feels a little stilted, especially in the middle section, which features Lobo's signature move, a dog pile. Yeah, it's kinda lame. But the ending more than makes up for it, being quite possibly the objectively best ending to a fight in the entire season. With only 2 exceptions off the top of my head, that line is embedded into my memory, to the point where sometimes I'll just bust it out of nowhere because I'm bored. Overall, a solid episode with a semi-lackluster animation and a great ending. 8 out of 10.
Lobo of Zarya, your sins are innumerable. I am here to wreak vengeance upon your soul. No.
You know, I'd pay money for a full color of Cold as Ice from Boomstick. Actually, a whole album sounds fun. Alright, I'm not gonna beat around the bush here. I hate RWBY with an undying passion. It's not even funny. I also like Persona. A lot. So when Mitsuru killed Weiss, I screamed a good scream. But that's not the only reason that this episode is so high. This episode is quite possibly the funniest episode of the season. and it's all to do with the Mitsuru rundown and just how stupidly insane it got. Boomstick's chart gets me every time. Also, I will die on this hill, but Winter Sonata is actually great. It's fun and beautiful, and I love it. Also, I really like Mitsuru as a character, and they really nailed how she acts in the fight. They were correct with the verdict, too, and I can't really complain with any of the reasoning. So, overall, a nice episode that's really funny, featuring one of my favorite franchises killing one of my least favorite franchises. 7.5 out of 10. Thank you, Red Wife. As someone who unapologetically does not like Deadpool, the result of this episode makes me happy. The ending, however, did not. They cucked me out of Deadpool staying dead. So, this episode is weird. Like, really weird. I think you and I both know that. But it's not even weird in the traditional sense. See, this episode is essentially a character examination of Deadpool. The mask is just a vehicle for that. Honestly, if anyone were to do this sort of thing, I'm glad it's Death Battle, because Death Battle is all about analyzing characters. But not in the traditional sense. It's nice to see them spread their wings a little in the writing department. Speaking of, shoutouts to Liam. I know I said I hate you before, but I love you now. He's the writer of the episode. Dude, killed it with what they were going for. And I have nothing but respect for that man. Now. Anyway, can we talk about the fight now? Because holy shit, the fight is quite possibly one of the most fun experiences I've had watching Death Battle in a while. Beginning, you know, it's fun. Deadpool calls Majora's mistakes, all fun and games. There's some Sasuke in there too, but holy shit. Deadpool uses the continuity gem. It just completely devolves into chaos so quickly. And hey look, we get 2 battle royales this season. But in all seriousness, this is a great battle that I don't think we'd get anywhere outside of the Death Battle sphere. So 2 out of 10 needs improvement. I stole that joke from Cosmonaut.
Indeed!
Who's next?
Man, Sasuke really got the short end of the stick. But truth be told, he probably judged TA the moment he saw him. I fucking hate Sasuke. You know, I don't even like Naruto and I like this fight. That must really say something. Honestly, this fight deserved to be the most controversial episode of the season, but Ben vs. Al just had to come in and swoop it up. But enough tomfoolery, let's actually talk about the episode. It's good, like really good. Better than it has any right to be. And honestly, a lot of that has to do with the obvious passion on display here. Like, it's pretty obvious that they really cared about at least Yu Yu Hakusho side of things, and they represented the series in quite possibly the best light possible. And while it's obvious the same level of passion wasn't really there on the Naruto side of things, it's still obvious that they tried their damnedest to do Sasuke with little justice he deserves. Yeah, I really don't like Sasuke. At all. Matter of fact, I think he's one of the worst characters in shonen history. So there's a bit of catharsis going on too. Not only that, but this fight actually introduced me to Yu Yu Hakusho too. Granted, I knew what it was, barely, but I didn't really know anything about it until this fight aired. Not to mention, the actual fight itself is badass in its own right. If the season finale didn't happen, it would be the best anime fight of the season, no doubts. It's also due to the still attractor meets. I mean, it's pretty obvious I like it, otherwise I wouldn't have covered it. Shameless plug. Overall, An awesome episode that got me into a new thing. That's all I can really ask for. 9 out of 10.
That's more like it. A fight fit for a demon.
Poor Volnut, man. Gets sticked by Capcom, then gets sticked on by the other Megamen. This feels like bullying a disabled child. So, this episode, it's probably the technically best out of the season in terms of writing. I mean, they managed to cram in 5 characters where they normally fit 2. That's an achievement in and of itself. And that's not the only thing great about the episode. There's more to it, like the stellar animation, the killer soundtrack, great editing, and so on. Come to think of it, I actually haven't talked about the editing in these episodes yet, so let's go over that. Each rundown, while being a fraction of what a character would normally get, felt complete and whole due to the symbiosis of the writing and the editing. And each rundown felt unique as well to the editing. So the edit clearly stole the show this time. But that's not to the detriment of the actual fight at all. As a matter of fact, it's a miracle this fight works as well as it does considering the color limitations they had when making it. You know, since every character looks vaguely the same and is blue. Yeah, I'm surprised I can follow the fight as well as I can. And it's all thanks to those beautiful bastards animating these episodes. In short, I love this episode. Everything from the editing to the battle animation to even the outcome. Something I like, yeah. I agree with this episode. Actually, I agree with every episode of the season. Except maybe Ghost Rider vs. Labo, but that's another story. 9.5 out of 10. Keep doing what you do, boys. Ganon's blood tastes like? It's probably barbecue sauce. So, Ganundarf vs. Dracula. God damn it, if this is one of the most fun episodes of the season. I feel like I say this every time, but seriously, the writing is phenomenal. Both rundowns flowed smoothly, the character writing was great, the jokes felt unintrusive, unlike a certain other episode this season, and overall, honestly, it's probably objectively the best episode of the season. So then, why number 3? Well, honestly, it's bias. I'm a biased motherfuck. Even if this has one of my favorite gaming characters of all time in it, I still like the next 2 episodes more. But we're not talking about number 2 and number 1 now, are we? No, we're on number 3, and god damn it, get it, there's a lot to love about this episode. As stated before, both rundowns work extremely well, especially for someone like me who's never really played Castlevania before but loves Zelda with an undying passion. I've seen the anime though, the anime is pretty fucking dope. Anyway, moving on to the fight itself, it's a spectacle. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the 3 new animators that brought on to do that first ever death battle in Source Filmmaker. They absolutely killed it, with practically all of it being done in engine. Believe the only thing they outsourced was Dracula's wine, everything else was in Source itself. All 4 total animators were clearly passionate about this job, and it really shows in the fight itself. From all of Dracula's actions, really, to Ganondorf's smug cockiness within his every step, it truly felt like these characters had come to life. And that's not even mentioning the voice actors in these roles. They both killed it, but special shoutouts to William T. Sopp, the voice of Ganondorf. That man just embodied evil in the most delightful way. Overall, this episode is actually perfect. And Dark Lords is amazing. 10 out of 10.
You're right. You're not a man. You're a pig. hear you squeal.
The only fight where both combatants die this season. And it's the saddest one. I love it. All Might vs. Might Guy is a great episode. I love it. Not only does it have killer animation, a stellar soundtrack, great writing, and great voices, but above all, it made me feel something. But more on that later. Let's review the episode now. So, the All Might rundown certainly helps a newbie like me get into the My Hero Academia universe, even if I had some precursory knowledge that only came from Twitter jokes, but it's knowledge nonetheless. It's paced fairly well. There are really no breaks for jokes, and everything flows smoothly. As for Might Guy, the same could be said. I'm as big a Naruto fan as I am a My Hero fan, which is to say, I am not one. So seeing a new Naruto character get into VB always gets my curiosity going. Like, I saw people talking about Gates before the episode came out, and it's like, what, does he have a dog? Oh my god, that was a terrible joke. Did the city mandate that he get a fence for his dog? What was I thinking? This is a terrible joke, I'm gonna stop. Anyway, learning something new always intrigues me. And it's no different with Might Guy. These are the kinds of episodes I crave, with characters I know next to nothing about, and then I get to see the research I just learned put to use in the fight. I felt that a lot in seasons 1 and 2, but not so much recently, so it's nice to feel that way again. Speaking of feels, that animation. It is quite possibly the best one of the year, even if it is the finale. Those camera angles make me weak. And the ending, oh my god, the ending. It got me. Hard. Like, harder than it should have. I don't even know either character, and it made me cry. Like, legit, cry. At Death Battle. It's beautiful. In short, this episode is fantastic, and it gets bonus points for making grown men cry. 10 out of 10.
Good fight. Let's do it again.
I'm sure you've guessed it by now, due to a process of elimination. But yeah, it's time to go beyond the racetrack and dive deep into my favorite death battle of the year. Johnny Cage versus Captain Falcon. Where do I even begin with this one? There's so much I love about it. From the animation, to the writing, to the music, oh my god, the music. But if anything, we should talk about the writing in this episode. The writing is, in my humble opinion, the best in the season, as it encapsulates every single character's personality down to a T. The only real problem I have with it is that it's a little clunky in Johnny Cage's rundown, but other than that, it is magnificent. And would you look at that? It was only Ben who wrote the episode. Strange, it's almost as if he knows what he's doing. Well, anyway, the animation is also spectacular. Always and Boomstick were still growing in terms of their animation quality at this point. Still a hell of a lot better than Mario vs. Sonic ever was. And the fight. Oh my god, the fight. Every impact was felt, and every interaction felt real. Not to mention the great VAs who worked on this episode. They were great as both their characters, especially during the whole showbiz interaction. And that ending with the Falcon Punch, oh my god, I got literal chills just every time I see that. And this is all not even going into why this is my favorite death battle of the season. Falcon Uncaged. See, Brandon Yates woke up one day and decided, I'm gonna make a track so good that no other track can possibly hope to top it in the history of death battle. And then he did. We got Falcon Uncaged because of that. I love everything about this track. From the synths, to the brass, to that downright inspiring guitar solo from RWBY. Seriously, the guitar solo makes the climax of the fight what it is. And the fact that the conclusion is, at least in my opinion, correct, makes it all the sweeter. Honestly, I could gush about this episode for hours and hours on end, but I think you get the big picture here. Johnny Cage vs. Captain Falcon is quite possibly my favorite death battle ever, and only Joker vs. Jorno happening will dethrone it. Thanks for watching, I've been TehGM, and have a great day, or night.
Who's fire?
Only one can be worthy.
By the way, this one gets a 10 out of 10.